because they've thrown in these things, and I kind of want that. I kind of like the whole idea that somebody can come, come to me when I need something, and I can get a shuttle back and forth from the airport. That's cool. Then they have the premier accommodation. Fantastic view overlooking the beach. Concierge service, room, bed, free meals. I said, okay, I see why I'm paying for more. Why am I willing to pay more and more based upon these packages? Why? Because the utility, the value is increased because of the number of attributes or the type of attributes that are included. Do you get that? So the more attributes, the more things that I put in a package that customers value, the more they're going to be willing to pay for it. I.e., the more the utility of the item, therefore the higher the price I can charge for the item. Alright? So you see in option 1 there, because utility was increased, because there was so much stuff in this iPhone that customers wanted, they paid more, or were willing, I should say, to pay more for it. And Apple, recognizing that, said, hey, guess what? Well, we're going to price it higher than the industry average, because there's more stuff in this than competitors are offering. People want to pay more for it. Competition is low. We're going to charge more. All right. So look at what happens to price here. Price goes up, but price can go up because utility has gone up. What has happened to cost though? Cost has also gone up in this option 1. Why? Well, in order to provide these extra stuff, in order to have this innovative, wonderful touchscreen and apps and all those kinds of things, we have to, as the manufacturer, the creator of this product or service, we have to pay more. We have more costs. In order for the resort to, throw in free meals, well, somebody's got to pay for the meals. Somebody's got to pay for the ingredients, to pay the chef and all that. You're not necessarily, the cost to create that service has increased. But profit margin, which is P minus C, has also increased. So what does that imply? It implies that the price increase is greater than the cost increase. Do you get that? The price increase is greater than the cost increase. If the price increase is not greater than the cost increase, then my profit margin per item is not going to increase. It is not going to increase. My price per item has to increase more than my cost per item in order for this new P minus C to be more than this. So this P minus C, for it to be more than this P minus C, this price increase has to be more than this cost increase. And this, in fact, should be cost 2 rather than price 2. So Apple used that option 1 when it first came out with the iPhone. It had high prices, right? Because customers were willing to pay more. It had higher utility. This item had higher utility. And they were doing that, but their cost also increased. But they were making more money because the cost increase was less than the price increase. Okay? So they were charging more, much more than it was costing them to have this level of production, or have this type of production, I should say. Later on, Apple can be argued to have changed the option in terms of their pricing. For example, what's the price of an iPhone now? Well, the newest iPhone came out, it's about $199 for the iPhone 4, which is comparable and somewhat low, in fact, to competitors in the industry. Well, Apple has changed the option, or changed its pricing option for the iPhone. It has gone from trying to raise prices to reflect value to lowering prices to generate demand. What is it doing there? It's trying not to make money or a huge amount of profit per item. It's lowered its profit margin per item in order to increase the volume of item itself. So we have to go right back to what increase in revenue, or how increase in revenue occurs. Revenues is sales by number of items, right? So the price of item multiplied by the number of item. How therefore can revenue be increased? Well, it can either be increased by raising the price per item, which is what we did in option 1. We raised the price per item. So let me take an example. For example, we have a widget, right? And last year we sold 10 widgets at $2 a piece. Our revenue was therefore $20, right? This year we want to raise our revenue. Let's say we sold the same number of widgets, right? $10. 10 widgets, but we increased the price of each widget to $3, right? Our revenue has in fact increased because although we sold the same number of widgets, the price per item has increased. So it's 3 by 10, $30 in increased revenue. Fantastic, right? But let's say we decided not to go with option 1 and raise prices, but we went with option 2 to lower prices to get demand. We lowered our price of our widget to $1, and we then sold 30 items compared to the 10 widgets we sold before. 30 by 1 is $30. Our revenue has again increased from $20 to $30. Not because we increased the price per item, we in fact lowered the price per item, but we increased the volume of sales. So increasing revenue can happen either one or two ways. We can either increase the profit per item, which is what we do in option 1, or we can increase the number of items sold, which is what we do in option 2. And that's why we call it pricing options. We can either lower our prices to increase demand, or we can raise our prices to facilitate or to reflect value. So Apple says, you know what? We want to saturate the market. We just don't want a few people buying our iPhones. We want everybody buying our iPhone. In order for everybody to buy our iPhone, we have to lower our prices. We have to lower our prices. And in order to do that, we're going to charge less, which is why P2 is less than P0. You see it here, right? Now notice, utility is still high. We still value the iPhone, for example, at $600, right? We would be probably willing to pay for it, $600. But they're only charging $200 for it. So what has happened here is that our consumer surplus has highly increased, which is why more people want to buy it, because more people think, hey, we're getting a great deal here. Do you understand that, right? So utility has stayed the same. We still value the iPhone at $600, but instead of pricing it close to that, Apple says, no, we're going to price it lower. We're going to price it much lower and create this demand, because customers are now going to say, hey, I am buying this because of its great price. Again, low prices creates value. Just like in this case, differentiation created value, low prices also create value. Now, look at what happened to cost. Cost decreased. I just argued that in order for Apple to create this new innovative phone, it had to, in fact, spend more in order to have the new innovation, increase the quality, and lower the, decrease the size and all that. Had to spend more money. But yet we see the same phone, or even let's say the iPhone 4, we can argue, or we should argue, that the iPhone 4 costs Apple more than the iPhone 3 because there's new stuff, all this innovation, again, the size and building all these new things into it. But yet we see the cost decreasing. Why did the cost per item decrease? The cost per item decreased because of those economies of scale. When we produce more, when our demand goes up, when we have more manufacturing, again, our fixed cost is spread across more products. So each iPhone 4, because we're selling more iPhone 4s, is going to have to contribute, is going to have to accept or accommodate less of the fixed cost because our volume has gone up, right? So option 1, we raise prices to reflect the value because of all this new wonderful quality and innovation and customer responsiveness. Option 2, we lower prices to generate demand. Same product, but in one aspect we are trying to sell profit per item based upon differentiation. Option 2, we're trying to sell people on the value of low prices. Now, only when we have a product that is highly differentiated can we do this. If we had a product that was just being sold on its low cost, we could not do option 1. We could do option 2. We could lower prices to increase demand. For example, let's say with gas, if we just sell general, run-of-the-mill gas, we could lower our prices and get more people buying our gas, right? But could we do option 1? Could we increase the price of gas and expect people to pay for it? Well, the only way we could expect people to pay for it is if we somehow added more utility into that gas. For example, if we told people, okay, this new gas that we're selling is going to burn less, is going to burn less quickly than the first type of gas. So you're going to be able to use less gas than you used before. The other great thing about this gas is that it's going to decrease the number of services you're going to need on your car. The other great thing about this gas is going to enhance the performance of your engine. All of those things are things that we really value, right? And so because we value that, we'll say, oh, okay, yeah, this gas is like $3, but hey, you know what? It has all these other things in it. I'm going to pay for it. I'm definitely going to pay for it because, hey, it's worth it. Rice. Rice seems like a pretty run-of-the-mill thing. Hey, it's rice. We all kind of eat rice. It looks like rice. So if my rice, if I prefer my rice is kind of the same as your rice, there's no way that I can raise my prices and in order to do option 1. So there has to be something about my rice that differentiates my rice from everybody else's rice. So if I say, hey, this rice cooks much quicker, this rice is more nutritious, this rice has less calories, there has to be something in that rice that creates value, that attracts customers that are going to make them more willing to pay for it. So again, only when you have a differentiated, highly differentiated product can you do both option 1 and option 2. All right, you cannot do option 1 if your product or your service is by nature not or does not have lots of attributes. Okay, again, let's take the example of the Waldorf Astoria and the Motel 6. Waldorf Astoria, for example, if I don't know, let's say it chose to do this in order to create more demand for its services, have a 1-week special where it slashed its rate by 50%. Alright? Okay, customers still recognize what the Waldorf Astoria is worth, what they value it at, but now more people will be willing to afford, be able to afford it, and therefore it could do option 2. It could do option 1. It does option 1 still. It has high prices because that's what we value it at. But it could also do option 2 if it so desired. It could slash, it could lower its prices. Motel 6 couldn't do option 1. Why? It couldn't do option 1 at its present state because it doesn't have the value, doesn't have the attributes that we're going to be willing to pay for. They can't say, well, yeah, it's the same crummy bed, it's the same, cockroach infested room, but now you pay $50 more. Well, what am I paying $50 more for? All right, so that's why it argues the more differentiated your product is, the more you have efficiency, quality, innovation, and customer responsiveness, the greater number of pricing options that are available to you. Here's Toyota and General Motors, right? And Toyota, the reason why Toyota is doing better than General Motors is because, one, it creates more utility. There's stuff in Toyota's cars that we value more than General Motors cars, right? So as a customer, I get more out of Toyota, right? Because there's more that Toyota offers, Toyota in turn can say, you know what? In order for you to get these things, you're going to have to pay a little more than General Motors cars, right? Reason why? Because I know you value it more. And therefore that creates more profitability because Toyota can charge higher price. Now notice, it's not just because they can charge higher prices than General Motors, but look at what's occurring with its cost. Its cost per item is decreased. Why? It has a lower cost structure. It's good at efficiency or better than efficiency than General Motors. And so superior value creation requires, listen to this, the gap between utility and cost of production to be greater. So what am I trying to say there? The more utility I'm providing for my customers, right?